Man down!
What the?
Shadow Complex is a side-scrolling 3D shooter game. Similar to a lot of like retro side-scroller shooter games where you would just see enemies to your left or right and have to fuck them up. Because it is 3D, you have this interesting aspect where you can hold the controller in such a way that you have to kill people in front and behind you, similar to how you would left and right. And so then the way that you have to use the stick on the controller makes it a little more interesting and challenging than just your left and right standard shooter. Now, I'm not a big fan of side-scrollers myself, and this game honestly wasn't too much different. There wasn't enough uniqueness in this shooter in order to make it totally different or different enough from other side-scrolling shooters to make me actually enjoy it. I did enjoy how we kind of started at the beginning with like this interesting suit, and then we just fought a normal-ass helicopter. However, later on, when we have basically no gear, no armor, we have to fight a giant mech. That was definitely interesting. The way that the shooting controls are definitely pretty easy to use, and it does make it easier that you do have unlimited ammo, and I do prefer it that way than having to constantly go and restock somewhere. However, when it comes to the checkpoint system, it is just a bit frustrating. I understand the idea that, oh, you know, if you don't hit this spot, you do need to do it all over again, and finding that where the checkpoints are is one of like the main goals. However, what I don't like is, for example, taking down large mechs, and then if you don't like have enough health right after to take out the enemies following or anything along those lines, then you're gonna have to start back before the mini boss or boss that you just fought. And that's frustrating, especially when you're at the beginning of the game and you're still trying to get these controls down. Once you finally figure out something and you get through, I do find it weird that they'd force you to do it again. However, I think one of the most interesting thing about this game is the level design overall. I really enjoy how vertical everything seems to be on top of being left and right, and then on top of that, there's always new secret areas that you can find or secret ways that you can attack bosses if you just hit the right vent or break the right floorboard. For example, this is a little bit of a spoiler potentially, but overall there is a boss in the game. It's like one of the second kind of boss type things that you fight, I believe. And overall, what you have to do is you have to break some of the floors and throw grenades down beneath it in order to blow up the pipes and cause a large vertical explosion. This does a lot of damage, as well as like finding different areas that you can shoot on the mechs and things like that in order to actually take down the health. And that unique and interesting level design that really keeps you guessing and always finding new things on second playthroughs is definitely the thing that adds a bunch of replayability and makes the game stand out more than anything else. However, like I said, the checkpoint system is quite frustrating, and I think that the controls could be a little more, easy to use sometimes, because while it does add an extra level of challenge by having to shoot people in front or behind you, it doesn't make it easy to actually do so. Sometimes I find myself just like having to spray while switching between left and right, so that way when I do actually turn, the bullets go in the direction that I'm looking at and hope that one of those bullets hits a guy in the head. So I think for this, having some lock-on system to enemies that are, say, directly in front of you, or something along those lines that maybe doesn't always lock on to enemies, or you have to be looking at them from a certain way, so that way it doesn't make it too easy, but some system in order to make those people easier to shoot definitely is pretty important in my opinion. As a first impression, I give this game a 2.25 out of 4 stars. It's definitely not quite just mid, it's a little above mid in my opinion, but the frustrating aspects of it definitely take it down by quite a bit, and I think that it's definitely worth a shot, particularly if this is like your type of game. However, if it's not your type of game, then I don't think that this is gonna, be a catch-all game for most people. Alright, and back to you, Jason.
Alright, so Shadow Complex is a game that I have started and stopped at least 5 or 6 times. This game came out in 2009, and I remember it being somewhat of a Metroid type of style with mixture of 3D elements. So that 3D, 2D platform side-scrolling experience. And going back to it, I don't like the fact that I kind of look like the main character. and just so happened to have the same name as the main character. It's very weird, okay? But the game is extremely fun. And I really enjoy going through and trying to figure out where to open up the doors. I think the checkpoint system in this game is a little shitty to say the least. Essentially, it feels like you go a long ways and just no checkpoint occurs, and then you realize at certain points you could have avoided the area that you had died in recently, thinking you had to replay that area. So there's a bunch of going through secret doors, and the mini map does help, and finding different objects to help boost up your health, help boost up your accuracy. And we've only encountered a few guns so far, but those guns actually feel very fluid. It is a little bit weird trying to get used to hitting enemies in a 3D type of way, where you essentially have to shift your to have the characters back facing towards you, and then you're shooting forward. It's a little bit weird, but once you do get used to it, it's pretty easy to start aiming accurately once you do get used to it. The one boss that we encountered, which was a giant mech, and you essentially throw a few grenades at it, and there's a gas pipe that's leaking, you blow it up, and you kill it a lot quicker that way. Wasn't a bad boss battle. It was kind of fun. And I do enjoy the challenge in this game because it keeps me engaged, it keeps me interested, and it keeps me wanting to keep pushing forward. So overall, Shadow Complex is one hell of a good time, and I honestly am going to give this game probably a 4.25. I'm a big Metroid stan. I do like the 2D Metroid games. Metroid Prime was okay, but I like the 2D side-scrolling type of adventures. Castlevania is another one. But this game is definitely worth the 4.25, and you can go get it either on the Xbox or head over on the Epic Games Store, as well as I'm pretty sure that, so Shadow Complex is available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows, Xbox 360, pretty much every platform that you have that's relatively current, you can get this game on. Overall, I don't know how long the experience is, but for the amount of time that we did play, it felt like we did get pretty far. There are a few minor glitches that they haven't fixed, and there's one cutscene where basically the main character shows up without a gun, and then if you die and you come back, he shows up with it's weird. There's just minor glitches and minor things that occur that can get kind of annoying, the fact that it is a lot older game and they haven't patched up some of these things. But it is what it is. It's still a fun game regardless, and I recommend if you have this game, and I recommend anybody who is looking for a fun side-scrolling adventure they haven't played yet, Shadow Complex is it. Go and check it out.
Stay out of my